You've just dialed the Hopeless Romantics hotline. How can I help you? Okay, I can do that. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Hopeless Romantics hotline. My name is Allison Kanosky, and I am your host. Here on the Hopeless Romantics hotline, we talk about all things romance related. So we cover movies, shows, books, and also breaking down specific romance tropes. So basically for this episode, and probably for a couple episodes in the future until I get this issue fixed, currently I am dealing with a malfunction of my recording device. So basically I cannot record physical content where you can physically see me. So you're going to have to deal with voiceover Allison for a while until I figure this issue out. Hopefully you will see my face soon. And what I mean by that is that I cannot record long form content without this issue happening. So if you see covers where you'll see my face, those I can usually get through without there being an issue. But for some reason, I don't know why I do not know why I cannot film long form content without there being an issue. I'm so sorry. Let's get on with today's episode. Today, we will be covering the myth, the legend, Hot Frosty. So, I watched Hot Frosty with my grandparents. And, yeah, it was not good. And I don't think anyone thought this movie was going to be good, if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves. I don't think anyone thought this movie was going to be good. And I did not think it was going to be good, and it wasn't good. So here's the thing with this movie. Honestly, it's one of those movies where, it's very, very cookie cutter, despite its absurd premise. If you do not know what Hot Frosty is about, it follows a woman who, after her husband passes away, puts a magic scarf on a hyper-realistic snowman, and the scarf brings the snowman to life. And there they fall in love, and I think you can guess what happens from there. But here's the thing. I know some of you are asking yourselves, Allison, when are you going to cover a good movie on this podcast? Soon, I promise. So, yeah, I did not like Hot Frosty. So, from here on out, we're going to be getting into spoiler town, meaning that I will basically be spoiling pretty much the whole movie in this section. So, if you do not want spoilers, please click off this episode, and I will see you in the next episode. The movie begins with us being introduced to our main character, Kathy Barrett, who runs a local cafe in the small town of Hope Springs, which is kind of like a stereotypical Hallmark town that you see in every single Hallmark movie, except this is not a Hallmark movie, this is a Netflix Christmas movie. Her husband has recently passed away, and her house is falling apart, and she's not doing very well emotionally. Kathy takes out her friends to lunch, and her friends give her a scarf that they say is quote-unquote destined for her. It's nighttime, and she's on her way home, and outside there is a snowman sculpture competition. And she sees a very, very hyper-realistic snowman. I could not imagine how long this possibly could have taken somebody, because it is so hyper-realistic that I do not know how somebody possibly could not have taken all day to create this snowman. She puts the red scarf around the snowman and then takes photo of the snowman. Yeah, and then goes about her merry way. The snowman then later comes to life and goes streaking throughout the neighborhood and falls through the local clothing shop's window and steals clothing from the shop to wear around town. In the morning, Kathy's just driving to work like she normally does, and then she sees a strange man talking to all the snowmen that are part of the snow sculpture competition. And she's a little confused And so she invites this man inside just to give him some food, like he's probably hungry. And she assumes his name is Jack because he has a name tag on his overalls that state the name Jack. So the snowman's name is now just Jack. She tries to ask him questions to, one, try to figure out who this guy is, and maybe he got lost, or maybe he just has amnesia and he just doesn't know where he is, like trying to like figure out who this guy is so she knows how she can best help him. And all he says is that his first memory is of her putting the red scarf that he's wearing on him. So now we get introduced to the sheriff of the town, who is now trying to investigate the break-in of the clothing shop and the streaking incident. Kathy decides to take Jack to the doctor, and this has to be maybe the funniest scene I have seen in a while of a doctor's office, because I kind of wonder how this doctor got her medical degree. She basically gives him like a few tests, and she's like, he's a snowman. In real life, the doctor would probably not let him leave the hospital and would probably keep him for quite a long time and be running a ton of tests on him just to figure out why his body temperature is below freezing and why he just doesn't seem to have any memories of anything. Yeah, so the doctor just tells Kathy, she's just like, yeah, he's a snowman. And Kathy's like, are you actually serious? He's a snowman. And doctor's just like, yep, that's the reality, accepted. I love how in this movie, like, and you're probably gonna notice this common theme, like, him being a snowman is really not as big of a point of conflict as I feel it should be. Because nobody seems concerned about it at all. I don't know. You feel like him being a snowman would be the biggest point of conflict, but for some reason it isn't, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Kathy decides to take Jack home with her, and the next day leaves him to his own devices. He spends the entire day watching TV, and when she gets home, surprise, he makes a homemade pizza for her, which he figured out how to make by watching a cooking show. Kathy is uncomfortable by the fact that Jack is always talking about how in love with her he is, and how he just keeps hugging her every 5 seconds, to which she tells him that he doesn't love her, he's just appreciative of her, and like he doesn't understand really what love means. The next day, Jack decides to give another offer of service to Kathy by fixing her roof. And Kathy's neighbor, by accident, distracted by the sight of a shirtless man on the roof, crashes her car into a snowbank, and Jack pushes her car out of the snowbank, and the lady asks him to do some housework in her home. And she invites all of her friends over to watch. No, he is oblivious to the fact that these women are sexualizing him and is just doing all these offers for them because, he's just genuinely trying to be nice. One of the ladies asks Jack to then help out at her son's understaffed middle school dance, which he accepts because he genuinely wants to be a nice guy. And he ends up getting a job on the school's maintenance staff. Then him and Kathy are then approached by the sheriff, and basically the sheriff and his assistant are very, very, very suspicious of Jack, and Kathy just tells Jack, you need to lay low. I told you to lay low earlier, and you're still not laying low. And Jack then, he decorates the school hall and encourages another student to ask out his crush to the dance. And then, inspired by that, he asks Kathy to the dance. And Kathy accepts, and there's like a whole shopping montage of buying him a suit, and Jack gives Kathy a cute little snowflake necklace. And then we get to the dance, and I won't lie, this is actually pretty cute. It's actually a pretty cute little scene. Then Jack starts overheating, and Kathy takes him outside to cool down. They almost have a kiss here. But Jack, out of consideration for Kathy's feelings, says that if they kiss, then she'll get too emotionally attached, and she'll be hurt when he eventually melts away. Aw, how sweet and considerate. Now, the day's here. Christmas Eve. Everybody is gathered at Kathy's cafe, and she gives a whole speech, and then the sheriff arrests Jack for the streaking incident and damaging the window. And everyone at the town is so angry at the sheriff for arresting Jack, because Jack is genuinely making everyone in the town's lives better. Like, he's genuinely brought some happiness to a lot of people's lives. And the doctor then reveals to everybody that he's a snowman, which isn't really a big thing. Everyone's just like, yeah, which, going back to what I said earlier, I don't understand why him being a snowman feels relevant to the plot, but also not relevant to the plot, because no one really seems to care that he's a snowman. To the point where I kind of question why they made him a snowman, especially if it's really not relevant to how other characters perceive him. Yeah, I just don't think it was really a good idea, especially if I just feel like they could have utilized, like, him being a snowman in a lot more, like, fun, creative ways, and, like, had it actually affect how a lot of the characters perceive him. I feel like they could have done a lot better in terms of that. But anyways, moving on. The sheriff demands that Kathy pay a $2,000 bail for Jack to be released. And Kathy then empties out the diner's safe, and then everyone then donates, but they still don't have enough money, and then the sheriff's son comes in, and then the sheriff releases Jack because now he has the money. But Jack is, as we at this point presume, is dead. He is melted away, and Kathy kisses him, takes the scarf, and then he comes back to life. He's now a human now. They kiss, and then the movie ends with them flying off to Hawaii. Yeah, I'm presuming you probably could have guessed pretty much almost all of this plot from the first, 2 minutes of this movie.
Hey, this is Editing Allison to give you some final thoughts about this movie before we end this episode off. So, basically, a thing I wanted to point out was I noticed that this movie was getting a lot of really good critical reception on Rotten Tomatoes. It holds an 82% when I'm recording this. And I also noticed that it does have, a really low audience score, so I definitely am seeing that a lot of critics are resonating with this more than audiences are, which honestly, to me, it kind of makes sense a little bit. I don't know why it just makes sense to me, but it just does. But overall, I will say I don't really have as many thoughts about this movie as I really thought I honestly would. I honestly really wish I had more to say about this movie. I just really don't. I just feel like it's, again, a very cookie cutter, straight to the point story. I think considering that the movie has such an absurd premise, I just feel like it doesn't really do anything new. And I think that's really all I can say about this movie. Again, if you really like this movie, kudos to you. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I just didn't. And so, yeah, I will hopefully see you guys in the next episode, and hopefully I will get this issue worked out so you guys can actually see my face this time. Bye!